Casper.com has created an outrageously comfortable mattress that you can try risk-free for 100 nights. Don't love it? They'll pick it up in-home and refund everything. Go to Casper.com and use code Colin for $50 towards the purchase of your mattress.
Hey, it's SVP&RUSSILLO. Appreciate you checking out the podcast. A stunner as the Wisconsin coach leaves for Oregon State. We discussed the hierarchy in college football of gigs. The guest list includes Michael Wilbon, who weighs in on the NFL's new conduct policy. Matthew Stafford, we talk Christmas gifts and famous/hot girlfriends. Teddy Bruschi with some really interesting analysis about tells from quarterbacks. A Hungry Man quiz. I'm not kidding. It's a quiz about TV dinners with Outsider Mike. And my one big thing on the most memorable bald man on campus that I have done to date. It's all part of the podcast, and it starts now.
Now, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio.
And ESPNRadio.com.
When you're out of the mix and you're doing a game day piece, and we interviewed about 7 or 8 different Naval Academy midshipmen yesterday, you know me and my phone, you check it to see, are you missing anything? And you see the note that's truly the wait what line of the day. You see it and you know how it goes. You think, wait, what? Gary Anderson is leaving Wisconsin to go where? Let's start with this. I'm not good at ranking things. We've covered that. Wisconsin's a top 5 job in the Big Ten, right? Easy. And we can argue where it fits in. Ohio State, Michigan, who's still looking to fill their job. I don't care that they've had some troubles. It's still a great job. Penn State's in there. Nebraska and Wisconsin.
Michigan State.
I think that
it's no worse than 3. Or excuse me, it's maybe as good as 3. It's no worse than 5.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, right.
Look, you know how I feel about Madison.
I don't even think of them 5. You know what I mean? Like I think of them as 3 or 4.
Camp Randall's a great stadium. They have great support. In the past 5 years, they've elevated themselves into the mix. They're a top of the food chain in the Big Ten, and you can roll your eyes at what that means. They've been a really good program. What's Oregon State in the Pac-12?
At best, 11th.
I went through this in my head, and I mean, Colorado, Boulder, they got some financial issues, but you could go to Corvallis, you can go to Boulder. Dude, 420? Come on. Colorado, what's up?
Kind.
All right. To be serious, I got fooled about Oregon State's level of a job because Coach Riley's done as good a job there as he did. He gave them a chance to matter. They won because he was there. How do you do this? How do you leave one for the other?
You must be really upset with the working conditions. It doesn't make any sense. But we can talk about the geographical pull, West Coast guy, the staff, they're all West Coast guys. It comes down to 2 things pretty clearly, depending on what you read and who you talk to, that Anderson was upset with how tough it was to get players in academically.
I think that's real.
So either they sold him something that was different than the reality, or he didn't realize it'd be this much of a challenge, and the assistant pay scale, which is why Bielema wanted to go to Arkansas. They're behind a lot of other Big Ten schools. I believe they're 10th of 14 schools that we know of, or 12 that we know of. They're behind. They're 40th in the country. Wisconsin's assistants are 40th when it comes to compensation in college football. So I think those 2 factors more than anything else, because Scott, the guy, won there. It's not like he came from Utah State and like, what's this guy doing here in Madison? And then went 500. He felt like he had another year to prove himself. He went 19-7.
Melvin Gordon, who is headed to the pros anyways, but still gave you the temperature in the room in Madison.
Yeah, I was shocked. Didn't expect it. Didn't see it anytime soon. Some guys are upset. My roommate, he's supposed to go on scholarship, and he's a walk-on. Now he don't know what's supposed to happen with that. So it's just some little things like that. People just worried and upset a little bit. I mean, we all been through this before, though. I mean, none we haven't been through. Right now, we just kind of leaving it up to Coach Alvarez.
And I guess Coach Alvarez will take over again. He's done it before. He was the coach before he became the AD. Couple of things about Anderson. You guys know my main man, Andy North, is pretty dialed into all things Madison. And I remember when Anderson was hired from Utah State, one of the things that really stood out and mattered to the folks in Wisconsin that they found impressive is that when he left Utah State, the story goes he called every single one of his kids before he left. Called every one of them to say, listen, I'm going to take this gig. And I can appreciate how difficult it can be to leave a program that you helped elevate. And that's what he did at Utah State. In this case, apparently, the story goes that you've got his assistants out on the road recruiting, and they don't hear a thing about it. Now, I know this is you and I have a bit of difference on this.
We completely disagree on this.
Okay.
There's not a bit of difference.
Okay. Business is business?
If this is your opportunity to leave for another, and I know we're saying Oregon State's a big-time program. I'm just looking at it as a Power 5 program. Okay, it's that kind of job. And then you want out. This stuff can happen so quickly. But at the same time, what are you supposed to do? Tell your assistants? It's like the trade thing where the vet gets traded in baseball. And he goes, they never even called me. You go, sometimes this thing moves so fast, there's nothing we can do. So it's great that he was able to do that at Utah State. But there's so many other issues if you're Wisconsin to worry about than whether or not Gary Anderson called everybody to say goodbye properly.
Hey, look, if
he's not as big of a deal to me.
All right, well, if he's gone, good riddance, and he is. It's just that he came to you under this pretense of that's his fiber. That's what he's about. And then when the first chance came to split, he split before he told anybody. I just think that's a hell of a 180 in 2 years. And if you're at Utah State, I don't know what the standards are there. My guess, and it's more than just a guess, it's an informed guess, is that you could probably get in people that you need to get in. And you run up against some issues at Wisconsin where you're just not able to just rubber stamp guys into your program, and there's some frustration. There's the pay, and that's real too because it's an arms race, college football, and we can, whether that's reasonable or not, it's just the reality. So I understand those things. I don't understand leaving Wisconsin for Oregon State and being in such a hurry to leave that you don't tell anybody, that you're just jumping on it. That tells me that this was the level of dislike, and I just don't care. Put my stuff in a box and send it to me in Corvallis. They'll find me. I find it all really curious.
It comes down to one simple thing. What did you expect was going to happen when you got there? Did they tell you something differently as far as the academics and getting guys in and how your assistants would be compensated with so much money going into these universities? The head coaches have all made more money. A lot of assistants have made more money. Why at Wisconsin can't their guys? If it is a top 5 program in the Big Ten, why is it right around 10th in the league in compensation when we're talking about the rest of his assistants? So if he was told that the assistants would get more and they didn't get more, then I can understand him being upset. If he thought, well, I'll work with the academics, and then reality kicked in and they didn't sell him anything different than the reality of, hey, we're not letting you get a bunch of clowns in here to play football, then that's on him for not truly understanding it, or it's on the school for misrepresenting it to him.
Second time in as many years, couple years I should say anyway, that the Wisconsin brass have been blindsided. Barry Alvarez, though, on the reality of the business that he's a part of.
I'm a big boy. I understand this business. Just take a look around the country. People move for different reasons. That's why I'm always prepared. That's why I have a short list. I feel very confident we'll put a good coach in place. And I promised the kids that. Our program's not going to take a step backward.
It is time, though, if you're Barry Alvarez and you're the guy that initially elevated the profile of this program, to take inventory and ask yourself, okay, we lost Bielema. It was a Alvarez protege. That had to sting because I think it was like a son in many respects. This one, I don't get the sense that Anderson ever really truly became part of the community or they saw him as such. I don't think this hurts as much as other than it just leaves you wondering, how are we this job and you leave for that job? And what's our role in this? That's what you have to address if you're Wisconsin when you're hiring your next guy. And also the realities of what we're talking about from a salary standpoint. What is it that the next guy is going to need? If you go for a guy like a Paul Chryst, who was a coordinator under Bielema, who's the head coach at Pittsburgh.
Played there.
Right. You bring a guy back that understands the lay of the land across the board. Whether they go that route, I don't know. But I think if you bring somebody back who's from it and of it, then you're more likely to have someone that can bend a little bit on some of the things that evidently Anderson wasn't. But this was as much of a head scratcher as anything I can think of in recent years in terms of leaving one for another. Can you think of anything close? Because I can't.
Todd Graham.
SVP and Russillo.
Yesterday, joined us via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, guests including Matthew Stafford, Detroit Lions quarterback. Matthew, good to visit again, man. These last couple of weeks, you guys have won by identical 34-17 scores at home. How necessary for everybody's psyche on offense was it to have a few weeks where you get people healthy and you score some points?
It was big, no question. Like you said, we had a bunch of guys out earlier in the year and had some guys come back healthy the last couple of weeks, and getting back at home was nice, and obviously putting up points. We needed to do that. Our defense has been playing great all year. We need to back them up put some points up. We were able to do it. Felt good.
Is there a way to describe, other than what I assume is obvious even to us watching on TV, what it means to have Calvin Johnson out there running around? Because you two together, at times it's comical what you're capable of doing. One guy specifically, what does he mean just to you? State of mind.
He's huge. He's huge to have on the field, not only for me but for our team. I think when he's dressed out, he's got the shield going, and everybody knows he's healthy and ready to run. There's just a special energy on our team, especially when we play at home. Our fans know it. Guys on our team know it. He's ready to go. And, when he can be himself and be healthy and play the way we know he's capable of playing, he helps us out, obviously, a ton.
How many times over the course of a game will you go, well, this could be a disaster. I'm just going to chuck it to Calvin?
I try not to do it ever. But sometimes, there are rules for him that are different than other guys. There's no question about that. Where you can put a ball, where you can take a chance, knowing that either he's going to come down with it or nobody is. We had one in the first quarter of last game, threw one way down the field, and, almost came up with a big one, but, it got knocked away. Knew nothing too bad was going to happen. So it happens in games, but I try to make as good decisions as I possibly can.
How did it happen that you had a defensive coach, the offense was awesome, the defense was a problem, you bring in an offensive coach, the defense is awesome, and now you guys seem to be trying to catch up to them?
Yeah, it's funny how that works. I don't know. But it's the truth. We were a little bit slower this year on the offensive side of the ball, especially starting out. But we've got it clicking. Hopefully we can keep it going. Got a big one this weekend, obviously.
Taking a look at the schedule as we visit with Matthew Stafford, the Detroit Lions quarterback, I know it's 1 week at a time, and since we're all such good pals, hopefully you can indulge us and be somewhat honest here. I mean, I assume you look at chunks of the schedule. You know that you hit the road in your division to end it, and you know you needed these three at home. Can you look at the big picture as it relates to the playoff picture? And at this stage of the game, I assume you kind of have to, don't you?
When you're in work and you're at the facility, you focus on one thing, and that's the team you're playing next. But sitting at home, obviously you look at the schedule before the season comes out. You get 3 in a row in the division at the end of the season. We break it into 4-game seasons, and that Final Four we knew was going to be crucial for us, and it's boiling down to be that way. There's no question about that.
I know when a guy's a peer, it's hardly hero worship, but the guy plays the same position as you. I just am curious what you'd say about what Rodgers is doing at quarterback right now.
He's playing unreal. You watch him. I keep waiting for one of those games. I was hoping the Falcons were going to sneak in and get a win there, at their place. But when he plays at home, he's as good as it gets. He's done a fantastic job there. Their guys are on the same page. They're playing at an extremely, extremely high level right now on offense.
When you see him lined up with a celebrity on the female side of things, do you feel like you should have waited it out longer?
No, I feel good about my decision. I appreciate you grilling me on that, though. No, the guy, good for him, but I'm happy where I'm at.
All right, look, I'm not saying that you're unhappy. I mean, you just know we were going to have some fun with you, but I imagine you see him with somebody famous, and then you go. Honestly, I'm trying to ask a serious question here, Matthew, is that the demands of the rock star quarterback are so different, I think, from so many other things, especially in the NFL, maybe in sports in general, that what kind of stuff happens where you think, like, this would never happen if I played offensive line? Like some celebrity that is a Lions fan that reaches out to you, and they want to talk to you strictly because you're the quarterback of the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different lifestyle than I ever thought, no question. But I think that's kind of why I'm happy not having a, quote unquote famous, significant other. I feel like I get it enough playing the sport I play. If my significant other, was, famous in her own right or something like that, I feel like it would just be a little too much.
All right, but just so we're being fair here, if you could marry someone famous, I'm just kidding. I'm totally messing with you.
I'm thinking, I'm looking over at him right now, like he's really going to go for one more here. He's not. Matthew Stafford's our guest here. A lovely significant other, for the record. I feel like I should send you something because we got the folks from Reprieve. They sent that towel. I've been using it as a scarf, no joke, which has worked because it's been cold here. From the show to you, is there anything you need? I mean, you make a ton of money. I don't know what we could send you some gear. I doubt you'd wear it, but if we sent you some sweet gear, SVP and Russillo trucker hat, would you ever wear it ever? I'd
be all about it. I mean. The only reason I sent you the towel really is or the scarf, I guess you're calling it, is just for something in return. You know, it's just looking for something reciprocated, and you know, you guys can think of something from the heart. You guys will figure it out.
We got some sweet Georgia Tech gear here. How much?
Oh, wow.
Maybe you could burn it, char it, and send it over. I could do that.
How much grief? How much grief do you take internally when they lose the way they do to them?
It's tough. It's tough, especially, you know, having Megatron on the squad.
Yeah, exactly. Having good teammates from there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I won the bet last year. Didn't bet this year. Don't know why, but lucked into not having to pay him any money this year.
How are you going to look back at this year if you don't get a win in the playoffs?
You know, that's far down the road, honestly. You know, there's so many good teams in the NFC right now. You look across the board at the records, there's a lot of guys with opportunities to get in. Obviously, that's the goal, is to get in, and then you go from there. You know, hopefully we're hitting our peak at the right time. You know, as an offense, we've been playing better the last couple of weeks, like you said, and hopefully as a team we continue to, you know, keep playing better and better, and we'll see where it goes.
That was a sneaky Russillo move. You get the guard.
Yeah, he tried to lull me to sleep, but I'm on top of it.
Yeah, and we see that. But you lower that guard, you have some fun, and then bam, he hits you with the playoff win, legacy type question.
Yeah, too smart.
Yeah,
all right.
It's an aggressive move.
We will send you some gear, and you'll never wear it, but you can give it away to your buddies or do whatever you want. Let your dog chew on it. We don't care, but we'll send you some gear, so then we'll be even. All right.
Perfect. Sounds good, guys.
All right, man. Stay upright. Happy holidays. We appreciate you. All right.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Right on. We'll see you. It's Matthew Stafford from the Lions joining a Subway Fresh Take Hotline. That was genius work out of you. We got to the fun stuff. Boom.
I'm just going to be honest. If I ended up being Aaron Rodgers and married my high school sweetheart, I'd regret it.
Have you seen his girlfriend?
Stafford's?
Yeah.
Oh, no. We're not talking about Stafford. Stafford's fine. He's good. I didn't want to make it creepy and compliment her. I'm just saying me personally. I'm not speaking for anyone else. But you're kidding yourself. Like, if I was Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl, on my way to Disney, just carving people up on 3rd and 17.
What if you were like a radio show host nationally for like 10 years? And would you wait it out as long as you could?
I did.
I don't know what Steve's trying to say there. You always expect it initially.
I'm saying looking down the road, you got a thing going here.
Oh, so am I currently holding out?
Yeah, I mean,
until the show really.
What a lot of people seem to be thinking.
I screwed up. I could have locked it up about 3 years ago. I'm getting less hot every day. Yeah, so my peak in happiness and virility and all that stuff, that was a couple years ago, and it just dawned on me. I didn't realize it until like last week.
Man, is it a bummer when you realize it too?
See a picture of yourself like, why's my dad in my basement? Oh no, that's me.
Yep. You realize the train has left the station.
Right. So now the gap, the older younger guy thing, I can't. No shot. Now I'm just old. But yeah, Stafford's wife's great. Sweet.
All right, we've covered the important details.
SVP and Russillo.
So I wasn't here yesterday. I spent it on the campus of the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. It's a beautiful place right on the water, filled with some of the finest folks that you would ever hope to meet. Midshipmen have won 12 in a row over Army, which is more than twice as long as any winning streak in the history of one of the greatest rivalries in American sports. Now, we have covered the bald man on campus jinx. If Navy, who's won 12 in a row and is a 15-point favorite, loses, then we know definitively I'm a curse and I should never be allowed to go anyplace ever again. We visited with Melvin Gordon at Wisconsin this year, Todd Gurley at Georgia, Sean Oakman at Baylor, Dana Holgerson at West Virginia. And I'm often impressed with the people that I meet, some of the best players in the country at some of the best programs in the nation. They were likely to be all pros, millionaires many times over. I don't assume that I spoke with any future professional, at least an NFL player yesterday, but I've never felt smaller or more humbled. Now, I've often shared my dad's line about dealing with famous people that he told me when I was little. He said, treat normal people like superstars, treat superstars like normal people. And I've held on to that my entire career. I don't overrate the people that I meet just because they're good at playing sports. It's just not worth hero worship. But spend a day with young men who are midshipmen, and you will walk away awed. You will meet people who feel heroic. Such a sense of purpose, of direction, of commitment and service, none of which is easily accomplished or without genuine sacrifices. They make choices that aren't easy for any of us, but imagine how much harder they would be when you're younger and you're more easily pulled in different directions that could cause you to lose your focus on the end game and the end result. I can't fathom it because I couldn't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not tough enough. I'm not disciplined enough. They made me feel small, but it was not of their own doing. It was my own self-reflection. These guys are up at sunrise every day. They make every second of every day count because it has to. They're not just students, which can be a full-time gig. They're not just D1 athletes, which can be a full-time gig. They're also midshipmen. You add all of it up, the totality, and you wonder, how's it even possible? Now, it's free, but there is payback upon graduation, which is service. Now, I enjoyed them all, but I think the guy that's going to stick with me most is a kid from Jersey. His name's Brendan Dudek. He's a wide receiver who's got a brother that plays the same position at Boston College. Got another brother who's going to follow him to the Naval Academy, I believe, next year. He mentioned his sister in high school as well. His rep is that he is the toughest guy on the team. Ask him about it, and all you'll get is a smile and a modest, I don't know about that, sir. I just try to do my job like everybody else. I smiled and said, nobody gets that rep unless it's the truth and unless it's been earned. And when he walked away, I mentioned to our producer, that's the kind of guy that you pray knocks on the door someday when it's time to take your daughter out on a date. Good-looking, humble midshipman who's going to graduate and serve with the Marine Corps ground. He was one of a number of players I spoke with yesterday who were going to do that. Parrish Gaines from Nashville was another. He's a senior that shared that during his plebe summer, he wondered every single day how he was going to make it to the next one. But he did. He's a captain now on the football team, and when he graduates, he's going to go be a second lieutenant in the Marines as well. They're not much more than young men, but they are going to go lead men, and I would follow them. They all thanked me for coming, but they all had it backwards, because it is humbling and entirely gratifying when you meet the future of your country and you find out just how well looked after we're all going to be thanks to the young men and women of places like there and West Point and the Air Force and others that are the very best of who we are. It was just a memorable day in that sense, because it was just one after another, and you'd think, Ryan, it's impossible for the next kid to be as good as the last kid, and then every one of them was they're just the best of who we are.
I could tell you were really excited about it because last night you're texting, I'm up watching the Warriors, Rockets, and I'm thinking, he's really fired up. Like you could tell. We always get really excited, usually very impressed wherever you visit. You get to see another part of the country. But I could tell this was different for you, so I'm glad you had so much fun.
Yeah, and it's just, I think the perspective that you gain, and I have to laugh at myself on this, is that I'd ask him, what time's your day start? Well, around 6. And then what? Well, formation, and then there's this, and then there's class, and then there's that, and then there's this. And I just laughed. I said, you got any nap time? Well, not really time for that. I said, naps are good, man. Yeah, I don't have time to nap. What about, like, going out? Well, leave time's good, but it's just stuff to do. And they've become great at making every second count. And I think of me getting a wormhole on Twitter, and the next thing you know, it's 2:30 in the morning, and I'm arguing with an egg about something. And you think, these are young men that have it all figured out. I'm supposed to already know, and I just don't. And again, if I'll just say preemptively, if you lose to Army, well, it's obviously my fault. There could be no greater jinx. We've covered the jinx. It's prolific. If you lose to Army, it's my fault, and you can take it up with me.
Who's the most sneak tip? Did you have something to jump in with there, Steve? No? Of all the guys we know, who's the most likely to sit back and watch Army-Navy all day, uninterrupted?
Well, I know I did. I told him. I said, for me, it's like Charlie Brown Christmas and Rudolph, and watching those two guys, watching the Army and Navy sing the alma mater when it's over. Those are things around the holiday season I just I won't miss. It's that good. So I don't assume I'm sneaky. I'm definitely going to catch it.
You ever, Steve?
Yeah, I'll watch it. I grew up watching it, so I still try and watch it every year.
Fowler.
He's got to go to New York. He's got the Heisman.
I know, but he loves the service academies.
I kind of took a shot at him, by the way.
What?
Well, there's
what
for the bump, within game day on it's written all over things like the weights say beat Army, and then there were M&Ms that said go Navy, beat Army, and so the T's was here it's go Navy, beat Army. It's written on everything, from the weights in the weight room. To the M&Ms, and I said, but what am I going to, like Fowler come in here and get some hack squats? I said, I can't, weights are no good for me. The M&Ms, though, I can work with the M&Ms.
That's not a shot. He'd probably love that.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe he'd probably be psyched, because he is certainly a fit man.
More than you.
Clearly.
One's a power guy, one's a cardio guy.
That's finesse.
The last time I got on a bike and got a sweat, it's been a while. That push-up regimen, that's good for one thing. Then I tore my shoulder off. Been getting back in the mix with that, though. Firing off some more push-ups.
Isn't there a good chance that the push-up regimen was what tore your shoulder apart?
No, that's what it was.
So you're back on it.
Yep.
That's good to know.
Because I figured, here, think of it this way. If I did too many and hurt myself, now I know how to properly do them, and I won't do as many. You can't just not get back on the horse. I mean, now I got range of motion.
Yeah, but how are you going to achieve massive gains, bro?
Supplements.
But you won't know if you just say I can't go over 20 because then I get hurt. How do you even know what you're doing?
We need to lay down, get some dumbbells, get going.
I'm all for supplements, and if there's ill-gotten illegal things that make me super swole, I'll take them. You guys think? Can you imagine? I just came in one day, I was just super swollen, had like Chuck Woolery hair. Just went and got the German platelet deal, and I came in on top of it.
Why not?
Exactly.
What's? Hey, you look super hot now. Let's make fun of you.
I'm telling you, 50 years from now, when we look back on people and we didn't take stuff that made us super swole with great hair, everyone's going to say, why'd you want to be bald and doughy?
Right. Breasts, teeth, it's accepted.
Yep.
Wigs.
What are we doing?
Right. What's wrong with a wig? Start it. Be a pioneer.
Midshipman, always in good shape, never go bald. It's a fact. We're the best of us.
SVP and Russillo.
Michael Wilbon, who joins the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Michael, I enjoy any time you and Tony take on the Redskins. It's great fun. You've talked of their dysfunction, calling them the most dysfunctional mess there is. There's really very little disagreement. I don't know what reasonable disagreement there could be. What's the fix? Because I've thought about this, and the realistic fix. Because Snyder's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. Right. Yeah, that's a great point. That's not even. You don't even start there. The realistic fix is he hires some young football person, guru, that he respects enough to leave be. And that person, along with Snyder, the owner's never going to be removed, hire a coach. And they get out, and Snyder leaves it alone. He lets them do the thing. Scott, you were old enough to know, I know you were young during the Jack Kent Cook reign, but Jack Cook never got involved in this stuff. The only time he would get involved, like if Bobby Beathard, the general manager, and Joe Gibbs, the Hall of Fame coach, if they had a disagreement, Jack Kent Cook would settle it. That's it. That's all. And they went to 4 Super Bowls. You know, won 3 of them. And they were always in the mix to do something. It was never dysfunctional. It was the height of function. And so, just like the Lakers had been before when he owned the Lakers. So this starts at ownership. There's no secret about this. Now, whether or not Dan Snyder is going to see fit to do that, I don't know. But it's been 16 years or 15 years, whatever it's been, he hasn't done it yet.
Right.
And so all of this stuff, what RG3 can't do this. No one can do it. They change coaches and quarterbacks like people change underwear.
Yeah.
And none of them. So if you flip-flopped RG3 and Russell Wilson, and you put RG3 in Seattle, I'm not so sure I know what Seattle would have done. Would they have gone this far? I don't know. If you put Russell Wilson in Washington, they would have failed. Yes, they would have, because one person in basketball can sort of undo, can cover up on a mess. You can't do it in football.
I agree. I just don't. I have no faith that will ever happen because he.
And I don't have any faith either. You and I are entirely in lockstep on this.
Ryan and I talked about the new policy as it relates to conduct in the NFL. What's important about it? What's significant in your estimation, Michael?
Well, I think it's sort of an olive branch to say we're going to put people on paid leave, and you're trying to be a little bit conciliatory to the players. But if I'm a player, and I said this yesterday, and I said this before I'd seen any reaction, and now I see the reaction. If I'm a player, I have no reason to trust Roger Goodell. None. What is it in his past 18 to 24 months that suggests I would want to trust him to even hear the appeals? There's nothing. And so these things, look, the NFLPA is a weak union in terms of relative to the other unions. Baseball is an incredibly strong union. The NHL and NBA are somewhere in the middle, and then there's pro football at the bottom, simply because you can put anybody in the uniform and 50,000 people will show up at the games. We've seen that already. So they don't have much of, they don't operate from a position of strength. But this is one area where if I was a member of that union, I would just say this is not tenable to have. And if the owners, and now we're hearing the reporting on this, the owners have said in their memo basically they wanted Roger to give up some of this power to be judge and jury at the outset, then the players should say, what is it that we want to accept any sort of edict from Roger Goodell for? These things need to be collectively bargained. And by the way, I'm saying that I don't find any of what the league is trying to impose outrageous. I don't find any of it overly punitive. Again, I wouldn't trust the person who's in charge of implementing it.
What would ever make them happy with getting punished more?
I think actually style over substance. That's a great question. I think that, and I heard Mark Slater say this yesterday, that most of the guys in the locker room are probably okay. And, there are a couple of people who won't be. But, again, I think it's how you do it. Just how you do it can make it more palatable. I mean, particularly when you're talking about an employer-employee dynamic. How you impose something. And that is where the NFL has come up short so many times.
Michael Wilbon hanging out, Thursday visit. We're paying a lot of attention to Kobe as he looks to surpass MJ here at some point with the total scoring. When Kobe's all done, will he be remembered someone that we were too critical of, or do you think he was someone that was propped up more than he should have been?
Wow, I hadn't thought of it in that, and sort of that taking the long lens and looking back at history. That's a fascinating conversation to have. I think he earned some of the criticism during the Kobe Shaq mess. Now, at the time, Kobe got 90% of it, or let's say 80% of it. That's too much. Knowing what we know now as we look back, would I have been as critical of Kobe as I was at the time? I think not. I think I would take some of it back. I think I would distribute it a little more evenly. Maybe not 50-50, but Shaq had to get more of it, some more of it. But other than that episode, I think Kobe has been appreciated by and large since 2008. And that was, when they started getting back into it and battling the Celtics, or maybe it was 2009. So for the past, 5 seasons or so, especially that 2009, 10, 11, 12 run, I think people really saw Kobe, and that's when you started hearing people say, well, he's going to retire as one of the 10 best players of all time, which I believe. I think that the hypercritical atmosphere surrounding Kobe softened. And I think a lot of us would maybe do it a little bit differently. And I think there's been a lot less of it the last 5 years. I think there's been a long appreciation, kind of a long-standing ovation for him. Even now as we get into a new area of some criticism, I think it's mild criticism. I think it's just the fanatics who are doing it.
Michael, Ryan and I are going to talk a little bit about Golden State here coming up on the show in a few minutes. Do you see them as like the summer blockbuster movie that's a ton of fun to watch but won't win an Oscar, or are they a threat? Are they a threat to be a title team?
I think we're sort of watching a 5-game stretch, Scott, to see if they're a threat. I saw them in person Saturday night in Chicago, and they won just a thrilling game, and nobody saw it because it was college football night in America with all the conference championship games. And the key to them is Draymond Green, because his emergence allows them to do a lot of things. It allows them to play defense a certain way that's taken them from fourth. People say, well, Steve Kerr hasn't played this defense. Steve Kerr hasn't played better offense. Mark Jackson hasn't played great defense. But Draymond Green allows them to have Andre Iguodala and soon-to-be D. Lee coming off the bench. Those are 2 terrific players coming off your bench. And what Steve Kerr does is he gives Curry, who I think is the MVP right now to this day, he gives him so much more freedom to just run a team. And so offensively, Steve, of course, would be a better offensive player. He'd be sort of a hybrid of his influences of Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich, as opposed to, say, Mark Jackson, who probably was more rigid. Pat Riley was one of his mentors. You're looking at styles here. They are so much fun to watch, but I look at them and I want to see what they do at Dallas in their next game. I think the very next game, or in 2 games, they're at Memphis. And so people say, well, you got to beat who's in front of you. Okay, that's right. And I'm not knocking the streak. I love the streak. I think they're terrific. But who's in front of them now, the teams on deck are Dallas and Memphis, and they're for real. And so let's see where this goes. And I think we're going to get a good indication even before Christmas of how we know they're really good. How good? Are they great? But I think that's one of the really fun storylines so far in the early NBA season.
We are in agreement. Michael, always appreciate the time. Enjoy the day.
You guys, thanks for having me.
SVP and Russillo.
New conduct policy in the NFL, and I think people's eyes glaze over a little bit when you start talking legalese, but this became a gigantic issue before the season started because the environment was such that anything that happened, the knee-jerk reaction from the public and that loud portion of the public that demands for punishment, if you were accused of something, people wanted you just gone. It's not the way. That's not the way the legal system works in the world. You're afforded more rights than that. But the environment became so hot button that the league took inventory of itself. And I think the most interesting things to come out of this new conduct policy are that Goodell's no longer single-handedly judge, jury, and executioner. Never made sense. I think that's as important a piece of this new policy as anything else. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, he still oversees the appeal process, but the initial part of it will be a committee.
Right, and the committee, they may, and that's an important word here, they may appoint a panel of independent experts. They may, I think I would say they should. You need as many informed voices in this process as you can get, as opposed to just one guy. And also, if you're charged with something, you'll continue to be paid until things are vetted out. And that's important, too, because, again, go back to post-Ray Rice, the Adrian Peterson thing comes out, and it's the same time as Hardy with Carolina's. That situation's going on. And you can't just cut/fire people if they're charged, because it's not always the case.
People wanted Ray McDonald. He wasn't even charged. He was playing for the 49ers. He wasn't even charged. It ended up being just basically there was not enough evidence of anything happening. And while he was playing for the 49ers, because it was so hot, Jonathan Dwyer's cut.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, why is Ray McDonald out there playing? It's like as if the team had to apologize for trying to go through some kind of due process. But there's one fundamental thing I think you have to understand with this, and this continues the way things are played out publicly. If you had a contract negotiation with ESPN and it was updated constantly, do you think people would like you more when they found out what you were making or the demands you were making? Or do you think people would like ESPN more with the way they were looking at the offers they wanted to make you based on what you had done here? They probably just hate everybody, right?
Yes.
Right. And that's, I think, where I'm at now with the NFL, where you have a league that clearly, as you said, is reacting to the public climate. So they're giving the public what they want. They're punishing players more. The, I guess, policy in place now, the step one of it, 6 games, next time, lifetime ban. Okay, so we've increased the penalties for NFL players when it comes to violent crimes. So the public gets what they want. But because they've now answered the criticism for the previous policies, the players, who are the ones, by the way, at the core of this, who keep screwing up and doing it, are now mad because it wasn't negotiated in the way that they want it to be negotiated.
Not collectively bargained.
Right. Now, Troy Vincent, who was on the player side of this thing, now is working with the NFL, said today, quote, they've had ample amount of time to contribute to where we're going. It's always been that way. He said, they say farce. You hear the term farce, unilateral decisions. They've been part of the process the entire time. The union said, quote, we've not been offered the professional courtesy of seeing the NFL's new personal conduct policy. So here's where you're at. Do you believe that the NFL just went ahead and did it to make everybody happy without asking the players whatsoever? Or do you believe that the players who may have had input don't want to set any kind of precedent where anything can be agreed upon without them somehow being part of the finalization of this new policy?
I think your initial thought about the contract and that analogy is perfect, right? I don't think any side is going to appear wronged here. You know, like no one's wronged.
I don't understand the players. The players, to me, the analogy I thought of, it'd be like you when you're younger, or maybe you're older and just don't have your stuff together, but you get a call from the credit card company and they go, you're 3 months behind on your credit card payment.
On that Movado that I bought.
Right. And then you're going, true, but I don't like your tone. And the credit card guy's, all right, I'll be more polite, but you owe us money. Pay your freaking bill. And the players are the ones that keep screwing up. The players caused all of this reaction to their behavior where the public demanded stiffer penalties. The NFL, I actually thought, made a really good point. They go, look, can we just get to a point where we step back and worry about our reputation, both as owners, a league, and players, and try to do what's right? But I understand the players fighting that little bit of fight. Go, well, wait a minute. It didn't play out exactly how it's supposed to play out based on the way things are collectively bargained. No one cares anymore. Like, I don't care. I don't want to. They've all become extremely unlikable in the span of a few months.
I just had horrifying flashbacks, by the way, to that analogy hits. It doesn't hit close to home. It hits the home.
Right. Well,
and go ahead.
Right. Like, okay, but I don't like the way you're Hey, pay your bill, clown, you know?
I told the story. The guy started screaming at me, and I screamed at him, "You're a bill collector. You're a debtor." And I went, "Ooh." That's what I said. That's a real conversation. So in this analogy, I'm the player, and I went, "Ooh."
Right, you can not like our late fees. You can not like the calls during dinner, but pay your bill.
Don't basically shoplift a Movado, Van Pelt. Right. And Richard Sherman talked about this, saying it's interesting anytime you make changes that we collectively bargain and you don't collectively bargain for it. And to say that you're changing this on the fly, yes, they're changing this on the fly. Admittedly so. Goodell played from the playbook in the Rice suspension, and everyone lost their mind. And so you say, well, this isn't going to suffice. Man, people want me out of here. I don't want to be out of here. I make $40 million. So let's figure something else out here, where if you guys don't screw up, then we don't have to worry about this now, do we? So, admittedly, if I would like to make certain from the player's perspective, and I want to make sure that we don't, because at every turn, don't they just, they lose at every turn. Do we agree with that, the players?
Yeah, look, our track records, I think, collectively on the show has been far more pro-player when it comes to stuff like this, especially when it comes to contract.
I think they just want to be certain that we're not going to allow the environment, when it gets so volatile and hostile towards anybody that is charged, that we're not going to find ourselves you can just hit the eject button on us. And I would fight for that. I want to make sure that we're at least afforded due process in the league as we are as citizens of the country. I just wouldn't want to make sure that we don't, the pendulum swings so violently in the direction of make sure we make everyone happy anytime our names are brought up for something that we may or may not have done. Well, if we may not have done it, then let's not be wronged here, because that's a real issue.
Absolutely. You're right. But it doesn't mean, I think I probably sound like a lot of NFL fans at this point, where you go, so we're going to keep doing this every week? Every week there's a new update to the policy. And really, who wins? Who wins with the new policy? Does the NFL get to keep its reputation a little bit more? Does it mean player conduct's going to improve? It probably isn't. People do bad stuff. Now look at the penalties legally for all sorts of things. People going to prison, does that deter people from doing the wrong thing? Of course not. So we can have stiffer penalties, and the NFL can take a step forward in the face of violence and all these things that people kept yelling about and screaming about. Doesn't mean that a player is now going to think twice about doing something wrong. He's still probably going to do something if he decides to make a horrible decision. But the way it's been so public and the back and forth, and that it felt like the NFL actually was like, hey, we want stiffer penalties now. That's what the public wanted. We're giving you what you wanted. We are reacting to your criticism. And then the last minute, the player's going, okay, well, maybe we change it, but don't forget about us. I don't know, man. It got to a point this week in reading it all and getting ready for just this segment where you go, I'm just kind of done with it.
My final thought is just from the Goodell standpoint, if you're a smart man, and I believe he is, just surround yourself with more people, because that way you're insulated. It's not just you. It doesn't fall on your lap. You had help in arriving at these decisions, and people just don't say, how did you kick this that badly? That's where you turn around and say, the commission, the independent experts. I was leaning on them.
SVP and Russillo.
It's SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. It's all right. Sam Steve's giving me the what for. I'm just Teddy Bruschi's telling a story, and it's interesting, and people are enjoying a musical interlude. You were describing for us, people would find this interesting, what things you notice and how they manifest themselves in the game. Because we see the cat and mouse at the line of scrimmage. We see somebody bark something out, and then we see you guys on defense start screaming out other things.
Yeah, you see certain things that started. Me and Russillo are talking about Drew Stanton, and sometimes it's elementary to read him as a linebacker or an interior coverage player, but it morphed all the way to where, picking up on things on film, playing back when we played Dan Marino on film, and, multiple games you watch a quarterback, what the quarterback does, what's the reaction of the offensive line. Was that particular signal a line call? Was that particular signal, was it a slant to the wide receiver? And so with Marino, what we noticed, I think it was the game where Todd Collins, our inside linebacker, late in the year, got an interception. I don't know if that was a playoff game too, but got an interception and took it to the house in Foxborough, where we noticed on film Marino was doing an obvious signal to his receivers. Arm up and down, sort of chopping an arm up and down. You see it on film. What's the play? What's the protection? Okay, on multiple plays when you see this, the protection is different, so it's not for the protection. You see it again. The slant is the second time. All right, we got to see this again and make sure. You see the signal. The wide receiver's running another slant. That signal equals slant by the number one receiver. So you have it in the game. He does it. You look outside. It's a similar formation. The football equation that I always like to talk about, I need to anticipate a slant. When the quarterback drops back, the same way you saw it on film, as soon as he starts to look to his left, I've taken about a step and a half because I know that I'm anticipating what it is, and boom, I go. Todd Collins saw that, intercepted the ball, and took it to the house. Various things you pick up on film, which quarterbacks like Peyton Manning, you think you got him, but you don't. Even things within a game on the field, you don't. I remember one game against Peyton Manning when he was with the Colts. I swear I heard Raider, boom, tear screen outside to the wide receiver. That was in the first quarter. Third quarter came, Raider, I hear it. I'm jumping it, boom, I jump it. Instead of my man-to-man coverage going out to do that same block, he ran an angle route, took it inside, and thank goodness my other linebacker was there, but still it was like a 20-yard gain. I was burned. So there's certain quarterbacks, they're not consistent, and you can't trust what you see or what you hear.
So when you're looking at a guy like Drew Stanton going tonight for Arizona, and you're looking at the offense becoming more of a struggle, although they did have some good rushing numbers in their last game, I'll always hear this theory about quarterbacks where you get excited about a backup every now and then, but they'll say maybe 3 or 4 games you can survive, but once you start going to 8 games, you'll start to see the deficiencies. Where are you with Stanton now in that theory? You
start getting a book on quarterbacks, and you start to realize who they are and what they do and what their tendencies are. And so the more tape you see, the more defensive coordinators know what he does well as a quarterback, to take it away at the line of scrimmage, maybe rerouting a wide receiver to not let him have that clean timing to where you have to have so much of a relationship with a receiver that if you have a reroute at the line of scrimmage and you're physical at the line of scrimmage, they have to adjust. And right now, he's not that quarterback that can adjust. It started all with me for seeing it with him in the Detroit Lion game, in the interception in the red area to the linebacker Bynes for the Lions. In the red area, you can't just try to look off a safety. You also have to look off the inside linebacker, because now the field is condensed and the deeper routes now become intermediate to short routes. So if you're reading it as an inside linebacker, all those routes now are in play. So you tell your inside linebacker, hard read the quarterback. So Stanton actually dropped back in that play. I remember it vividly. We studied this a lot for NFL Live. He read the safety. Okay? Sure, try to look him off, but there's another middle drop player, a short middle drop player, which is the linebacker. He just quickly went to his left. Stanton went to the defensive right, the offensive left. Boom. Hard read the quarterback, step in front of the pass, and you got an interception. So hard reading Drew Stanton is what I eventually saw from other teams playing him after that game. The Seahawks, other teams that hard read the quarterback, he's had a lot of struggle with, because it also affects you as a quarterback that you have to be accurate. All right, accurate because you know the defense is going to be there, and it's almost like man to where you got to put it in a certain place. It's been hard for him as of late.
It's SVP&RUSSILLO. Really interesting stuff as it all finishes.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, this helps us understand from a guy who's done it, from Teddy Bruschi in studio with us. Ryan and I pride ourselves on not just taking the obvious, the low-hanging fruit when it comes to a topic or a subject. And with the Patriots, they had that Monday night game where they got smashed, and now they've had an unbelievable run. It becomes really convenient to just say the word Belichick and presume he did something. You lived with it. You lived with the guy.
Right.
Maybe we don't have to be that clever. Maybe it really is just his leadership, something he said, something he did. What's the best way to describe his fingerprint on what they've become from what they were?
Well, if you go back and watch the first game versus the Dolphins, of course they play the Dolphins now, and how Coach Belichick really, I've said this a bunch, and he's also echoed it, that September is an extension of the preseason, and how versus the first game versus the Dolphins, they ran some type of hybrid 3-4 front with Chandler Jones at the 5 technique. 5 technique is when you line up head up on an offensive tackle. Not really what you want Chandler Jones to do, but that's the scheme and the plan that they had in place, and the Dolphins just ran roughshod over them in the running game in terms of run yards. I think it was Noshawn Moreno back then had a big day on him, and that was a problem. Haven't seen that defense since. All right, I know I just can anticipate that you just won't see the same thing from them especially this week. They'll run more even man fronts. I think that's what it is. The adjustments that he makes, the constant tweaks, and learning of his players as the season goes on. What can he do? What can he not do? So those type of adjustments, learning your players, I think, is what really makes him and his staff really special. How they able to adjust from week to week, from series to series, really sometimes down to down. But with the New England Patriots, still some of the old problems that they had earlier in the year, they're still there. Lack of a pass rush and the inability to protect Tom Brady at the tackle position. First game versus the Dolphins, Solder had problems versus Wake and Vernon, okay? Sebastian Vollmer also had those problems. And last week versus the Chiefs, you remember, Solder getting spun like a top at times, getting pushed back by Ingram. So those old problems, they're still there. All right, it's just how they've masked them up to this point and how other teams can exploit those problems that they still may have.
When we started talking about coaching changes, hour 2 of the show, and then I was thinking, okay, what could we ask Teddy about? I don't even know. Can I ask you about what it's like to have a coaching change? Because would you go through kind of 2?
Well, I went from Parcells to Carroll
to Bill.
And then Carroll to Belichick. I was fortunate to play for 3 now Super Bowl winning coaches, with Pete getting his Super Bowl in Seattle.
Okay, well, we were talking about this. What was the problem with Pete then at the time? Because I just remember being there, and it was, this guy's way too emotional. He's just a cheerleader for all these guys.
Well, they call him Pom Pom
Pete.
Yeah, I think the problem with you guys are following Bill Parcells, and I think what a lot of problem was that team in '96 that went to the Super Bowl for the Patriots that lost to the Packers. There were a lot of young, impressionable players there. All right, and Parcells sort of ingrained in them, this is the only way to do it. Okay, and then so someone else comes in with such a different aspect and such a different perspective. I thought a lot of younger players and even some older players were hard-headed in terms of not seeing, wait a minute, there's more than one way to win. I think that Pete also had ways that he could get us to succeed after that 3rd year. I thought if he got another year, he could have done a lot better with the teams that he had. But by that time in New England, you know how it is, and the pressure after coming off a Super Bowl loss and a Parcells, it just got to the point where, that was it, and he was moving on.
Did he get smarter, or did he just get better players?
What's that?
Did Carroll get smarter, or did he just have better players the second time around?
I think the second time around is really critical to measure a head coach in terms of what he learned from his first failure.
Right.
Belichick in Cleveland, right? I think that he had a lot of issues in terms of, he got better with dealing with players when he came to New England. Also a little bit better with the media, I guess, not much better, but learning from that whole experience too. And I think that Pete did learn positives and negatives, what went wrong here, not being able to call the shots in New England, making sure he got that in Seattle, that you look to him and you know it starts and ends with him, and I think that helped him a lot.
Happy holidays, man. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Always learn something when Teddy stops by.
SVP and Russillo.
I have been frantically working over here. By the way, QB stock game, we're going to get those prices for tomorrow. So
nice.
Throw that in the mix. The closing quarter, as they say on the street. Are you a bear or a bull tomorrow?
What are you if you don't have any money?
Broke.
Penny stocks.
Yeah.
Invest in Geno Smith, bro. He's available. I've been working on a flow chart of the Hungry Man series.
Okay. For those that missed it the other night, the other day, I should say, the end of the show, somehow, I don't know what happened, but Outsider Mike just mentioned Hungry Man. And then last night he sent a fire tweet of him holding up a Hungry Man. How many snapshots did it take to get the perfect look?
It took like a good 8. And I still got busted on for something in it.
Yeah, what were you getting busted on the most for you posing with a Hungry Man meal? It was a Hungry Man selfie, essentially.
Yeah, it was a Hungry Man selfie.
Those are popular.
People pointing out my nose, hair.
What's the problem with your nose and your hair?
Big nose and kind of lighten the loafers with the hair.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey, listen, don't take any crap off nobody. You hear me? We got your back on that. And
I noticed somebody mentioned your birdhouse.
Yeah, there's a little birdhouse or something. One of those knick-knack things that you would put, on the shelf or something like that. I guess I threw it out. I didn't even know it was there.
Any late 30 single male would clearly decorate their kitchen backsplash with a birdhouse.
Yeah, man.
My niece gave it to me, I believe.
Thanks, niece.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, niece, for the great gift. Just that's why I would say this: if you're ever going to take a selfie in your house, just be really careful that you don't have any personal artifacts that are displayed, because then that's all anyone's going to talk about. Whether you have a bad, like the trim is not painted correctly, you have a bad rug on the floor. But you don't need that in your life. So what do you got for us?
Well, you also got busted up for the 2 earrings, and I'll tell you right now, Ducks receiver Devin Allen, who's a hurdling champ, also has 2 earrings.
Bang.
So,
now what?
Yeah, right. That's the only 2 guys I can think of outside of Mike and Devin Allen. So I went through the Hungry Man website here, and I worked on a flow chart. They have, it appears to be 5 different series, and some have more depth to their meals. Others are just limited editions. I think everybody needs to know what your grasp of the menu is. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is the Hungry Man quiz?
Yeah, do you want a little music? What's a good Hungry Man quiz background music? And it's not really even a quiz as much as it is just a resume.
Temple of the Dog, I'm going hungry.
I'm going hungry.
What are those guys up to?
Well, Eddie Vedder was in that one song, wasn't he?
Remember when it came out, though? Like, yeah, and then it's the guys from both bands.
Any music's fine. Don't kill yourself. Far more important that we get to the question.
We're done, though. Like, we have nothing else we were trying to
no,
get at,
this
right?
is the
segment.
If you guys are wondering, when are they getting to the sport, this is it. This is what we're talking about.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
Duran. I like that other song a lot.
Hungry Like the Wolf.
Yeah, but I think I like more Duran than I knew. Okay, moving on. All right, let's just start with the Hungry Man pub favorites. You just tell me yes or no you've had it, okay?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yep.
I haven't said one yet. Beer battered chicken.
Yes.
Emphatic. Bourbon steak tips.
No. Stay away from. Oh.
Popcorn chicken.
Yes.
With spiced rum barbecue sauce.
Yes.
Grilled beef patty.
Nope.
Well, are you asking whether he's real or has he had them?
No, has he had them?
I have had that.
You have had the grilled beef patty.
I have had that.
I didn't have enough time to come up with fake Hungry Man dinners, but that's a great idea.
Well, I thought this was like that real or fake shows from True TV.
Yeah. Do-it-yourself tapas.
No.
No. That's a fake one. I'm just kidding.
Bayou Outrigger, whatever.
Okay, so you like the pub favorites.
Do-it-yourself tapas.
How about just straight Hungry Man? Old school. Classic fried chicken strips.
Yes.
Smoking backyard barbecue platter.
No.
That sounds like a good one.
That sounds
his face looked. He's like, that was like a wow. Why haven't I had that yet?
A lot of chicken products here. Boneless fried chicken.
Yes.
How is that?
That one's one of my favorites.
Hey, Hungry Man people, are you listening? This is a free promotion. You got a front man. He's tweeting out stuff. You need to. If you aren't frantically scurrying to send him a pallet of boneless chicken, which is one of his favorites at this holiday time of the year, you're failing as a company.
Longest ad we'll have on the show today.
Yeah,
okay.
This is an indictment of all of you if that's not being done now.
Staying in the traditional Hungry Man series, boneless pork ribs.
No.
All due respect.
Mexican-style fiesta.
No, I haven't even seen that one, no.
Roasted carved white meat turkey.
Yes, I have had that.
Don't sound like you like it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's a no.
It's okay. Salisbury steak.
Yes, I have had that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go over to the Hungry Man Double XL sandwich.
It's SVP&RUSSILLO. We're going through the Hungry Man catalog. Don't know how much further we have to go. What are you doing right now? Probably listening.
Have you had the Angus beef charbroil? I believe a step up from the grilled beef patty.
No.
Probably a little more expensive.
Yeah, it's boxed differently, too. I don't know if that one's carried everywhere. How about Hungry Man Selects?
Yeah, I've noticed some of these are regional. Some of these I don't even get to see in my grocer's freezer.
Maybe you should ask. Talk to your local grocer. Spicy classic fried chicken. Another chicken dish.
No, see? No.
All right. Slow cooked pulled pork. There's a pulled pork. This one's slow cooked, Mike.
I've seen that one, but I haven't had that one.
Okay. And then finally, we have one more, a limited edition from because you just can't.
No.
You can't produce these 12 months a year.
Obviously.
These are the Chipotle barbecue boneless chicken wings, but wings are spelled WYNGZ.
I've had that one.
Is it as good as it sounds?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so again,
I think we got them at 60%. You know what 60% gets you?
A D.
Statue.
Oh yeah, that's right. Statue in Vegas. I didn't know we were talking about. I should have known. Again, Hungry Man people. So the favorite's the boneless chicken. What
There's
else?
actually a couple that he's left off too. I don't know. That website doesn't have them all.
Ad lib. Go ahead. What are they?
Some.
If it's not up to date, I wouldn't be shocked.
I know there was like a meatball sub that I had.
How was that?
That was decent. Yeah.
Is that part of from the double XL sandwich series?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
All right. So
problem.
send some subs and send some of the boneless chicken.
Boneless fried chicken.
And and that just let's go.
We're good with the turkey though. That's
Yeah.
what I sensed.
He wasn't. It's not that he doesn't like it. Just doesn't like it as much. So we're going to send Stafford some stuff. Just to follow up on that, I asked Matthew, should we send it to your house or would you rather we didn't know where you live? Just send it to the team. I'll be good, which means he doesn't really like us. But you hungry man people, you can send that pallet right to Outsider Mike.
SVP and Russillo.
Yo, Easy, what you gotta say? A miracle of modern creation. Easy E's on the set, hyped up with the bass, and a little bit of what you love. From a brother who's smooth like a criminal. I mean, subliminal.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.